The moment is here, you can stop your search. It's Comics by Perch.
Hey everybody, this is Perch. Let's just get right into the mail. It says, hey Perch, thank you for doing your show. I've been listening for over a year now. Really appreciate your videos. It feels like I came into the show and started really listening right about the time you said you were going to end it. I hope that ending is a long one because I will miss your show, and I already don't like that you're doing less than 3 videos a day. It should be down to 1 by this point, but anyway, yes, we are winding it up. But it'll take a little bit of time. And then who knows, maybe come back. Anyway, sorry, back to the mail. I do wish you would engage more with people on the comment section, but I understand your comment section is a dumpster fire. I know you always say you won't ban certain people, but really you need to. If there's one area where Jesus Christ, this next sentence sucked. If there's one area where I agree with the critics that call you a cuck, thanks for that. The Perch cuck site. Those are good people who call you a cuck. It's that you have people who are blatantly, deliberately trying to make trouble, and you just let them do it. The reality is, while a handful of people may be entertained by that nonsense, it just comes across as sloppy. But okay, all right, fair enough. I won't read the rest of this. What kind of bothers me about it is that what used to be like one funny comment or one kind of joke has migrated to like 3, 4, 5 other people doing it too, and it's to the point. I'll be just completely honest with you. Yeah, I don't take it very seriously. Maybe I should. A bunch of people pointed out that one of the posters regularly goes on channels that are pretty opposed to me, let's just say, and says the same thing. So maybe it's not as much of an act as I think. But I don't like to engage in the comment section anymore, which sucks because there's a lot of really good people out there. So I try and do it with mail, but I don't know. It's not the comic store feel, which is probably one of the reasons I'm accelerating. So for those of you who legitimately like, I'm getting rid of the channel, ha ha ha. Well, mission accomplished. You have done it. All right, back to the mail. The mail. Okay. So anyway, enough about that. Yeah. Enough about that. Agreed. I'm writing you to ask you about DC's Night Terrors event. From the first couple issues that I've seen, this event reminds me of the old Marvel summer annuals back many, many years ago, which were disconnected from the regular comics and provided a nice distraction from whatever the current story was. However, if you still wanted to read the current story, it was still happening in the monthly comic. That was the nice part about how they did it back then. What I don't understand is that DC has really been gaining some momentum with their comics. A lot of their Dawn of DC books are actually pretty entertaining, including ones by Tom Taylor, which I know most of your audience hates, but I have been enjoying Dawn of DC. So I am very puzzled as to why DC would interrupt what feels like a lot of good momentum for a out-of-continuity summer event. I don't know that it's out of continuity. I think it is in continuity. I don't know that it's going to matter. That's kind of a different thing. Anyway, this seems like the opposite of good business strategy, where you have a lot of positive growth for your company, but you interrupt it for something stupid. Can you explain what I am missing here from DC's strategy? Because right now it just seems like self-imposed suicide. Keep up the good work, and please keep the channel going. All right, I'm not going to keep the channel going. Anyway, so for those of you who are newer to comics, once upon a time, Marvel did used to do these summer events that would play out in the annuals, and Atlantis Attacks, the Evolutionary War, and then they did rather than do line wide, because those hit all the annuals. They started doing like 4-part stories where they were connected, but they were with the family of titles. Like, hey, we decided Ghost Rider is going to interact with Doctor Strange and with Wolverine. So we're going to do Doctor Strange and Wolverine and and Ghost Rider and the Punisher. And there's going to be like a 4-part annual kind of series that would play out there. And it wasn't, it wasn't out of continuity. It was still taking, everything that's happening in the regular comic, but it was telling its own little story, and you didn't have to read the regular comic to get it. The idea that Marvel was trying to go with, which was smart, was, hey, fans of Fantastic Four will pick up the Fantastic Four annual, but they'll also want to understand this crossover that's happening in 2 or 3 other books, and so they'll buy those too. And it worked. The sales were positive on those. I think people generally liked them. There was grumbling about crossovers, but if you look at all the event crossover complaining that went on back in the 80s and the 90s, people didn't know how good they have it. Like today, I know a lot of people would beg to go back to those days. Well, just putting it out there. So this is a good thing. In terms of Night Terrors, basically you have the DC line. The DC line is getting interrupted for about 2 months while they do these Night Terrors comics, which are kind of vague, kind of nightmarish versions of this comic. And I've talked about this in another video when this event was announced. It seems strange. First of all, it seems strange to do a horror Halloween type event in June and July, or July and August. That just seems like weird timing to me, but whatever. You don't have to do all the horror in October. That's not how it works. But all the same, it's a weird choice. I think the other problem with it is that it's fairly ill-defined. Talking to a bunch of other retailers, there's a Night Terrors checklist, but it's unclear. Are you meant to buy all these? You're not meant to buy all the comics, but at the same time, kind of they're all there. So is this a crossover, or is this just kind of a thematic event where you pay attention to some of it? It's not really clear, how retailers are supposed to go out there and pitch this series. And then the biggest point, though, is the one you mentioned in the mail, which is DC has gotten a decent amount of momentum. They've actually got, some decent titles coming out. There's some characters getting attention that haven't in the past, and I don't think it's the dawn of a golden age of comics, but there is definitely there's starting to become more positive comments than there used to be, and it doesn't feel like DC's exactly figuring it out, but it at least feels like there's a kind of a general kind of rudder and direction. I think the challenge that DC and frankly Marvel have right now is there's no buzz on really anything they're doing. And, you asked about DC, but if you look over at Marvel, they just did a Captain America Cold War event that was, I don't want to say dead on arrival, but sure, dead on arrival. Nobody really cared. They got Fall of Mutants coming up, and that has got almost zero attention or people interested in that. You've got all these kind of stories and events going on that just are not, I don't know, people are just not excited by any of it. And it's, if you go to stores, you hear the same story over and over again. There's nothing that has buzz. In DC, I think the best kind of buzz that they've got, and it's legitimately good buzz, is, hey, some of these comic books I put on my pull list because I want to collect them for more than a couple issues. I actually want to keep going with this comic. There was the reaction, I think Doom Patrol that came out got shortened to a limited series. I believe it used to be an ongoing, now it's a limited series. And there are people who are legitimately upset by that. I really wanted that series to keep going. That's what you want to hear from a comic book company. You want the fans to say, ideally they're really excited about a bunch of big things you're doing. But, failing that, what would be a nice kind of alternative is that at least the fans are kind of demanding that the books keep going, that there is, there's some desire for these titles to continue. I think that's the thing that a lot of people are excited about. So, and they why you would interrupt, you're just starting kind of this year to get people in the model of, I'm going to come in every month and I'm going to buy a comic. So to interrupt that run with, hey, let's do a horror themed event kind of out of cycle for the comics, and it doesn't really necessarily lead into, we don't lead into anything. It's just kind of out there for nowhere. It feels like a skip month. And for a lot of customers, it will be. They will skip. They will just not buy this month or next month, and then they'll like, I'll come back when the title continues. Except if history is any indication, they won't. Many people will just keep skipping because you effectively break the habit. I think with comic books, people need to understand that the business of comics is a very habit-based business. You need the habit and the routine. I was talking with someone over the weekend. They're like, well, what about crowdfunding stuff? People like put out one title a year or every 2 years. And, there's no real, there's no habit to get built up because there's a bunch of space in between. That's true, except there's a different habit that goes on. The really successful people doing crowdfunding are, have a YouTube channel or doing live streams, and they're doing it on a semi-regular basis. So they're still getting that habit, not for the comic, but for the presence and the personality of the creator of that comic. And for a lot of pros, I know there's a lot of people in comics who have struggled and haven't gotten the crowdfunding aspect to really work. They've had careers at Marvel and DC, and they don't understand really why it's so hard. Well, the big reason is, if you don't have the habit in a monthly title, or roughly a monthly title, then you need to have the habit somewhere. And so that habit somewhere is probably going on a live stream and doing your thing. And I think a lot of people get impatient with that. I was talking to an artist who's like, I tried a YouTube channel. I did 3 videos and, I got like 4,000 subs, but then I didn't get any more. And I don't know. I just like, it's been a month and a half and seems to have stalled out. And it's like, yeah, you're going to need to do this for like 3-4 years. You're going to need to once a week or every 2 weeks do this stuff. My channel, when it was growing the strongest, was when I was doing live streams. And, people got the consistency of every Friday there was a show, and they liked it. And it worked. And I'm not a comic creator, but that's kind of, you need to have that consistency. But this is the problem with Night Terrors, is basically taking that habit, that consistency, and it's interrupting it. And I think that's, it's a weird choice. I'll put it that way. Anyway, are you looking forward to this event? Let me know in the comments below. Like and subscribe, of course. And thanks for listening.